Good evening, everybody. Just to inform you that the chairperson will be connecting in the next 2 or 3 minutes. He's got power outages, so he's apologized for that, but he should be connecting soon.
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, Chair.
Okay, we're experiencing load shedding this side, so I've just connected through my cell phone using a WhatsApp link because I can't connect through a laptop. How many members are in the platform already?
Chair, thus far it's only you and Dr. George. I'm following up with a few other members quickly.
Okay.
I'm also here, Chair. That's David Masundo.
Okay, no, thanks, Deputy Minister.
Recording in progress.
Chair, it's Alan. There's currently 6 members online, and Mr. Skosana will join in the next few minutes. So it's good to start, Chair.
Thanks. Let's start with the meeting. We are 21 minutes behind time. We had a long session in the National Assembly, but also some of us are frustrated by the power failure this side. Be that as it may, I've connected through a WhatsApp link on my phone. Let me officially open the meeting and welcome members of the Standing Committee, Finance, Deputy Minister, parliamentary officials, support team. Let me welcome the DG and the team from Treasury, PBO, media, and any other stakeholders in attendance, and the public at large. Apologies, Alan.
Chair, the only apology is voter vessels.
I also saw the apology from the minister. I think it's the same apology we got yesterday, that is not well, unless I misunderstood it. But I saw a letter coming from his office to indicate that he won't attend due to personal circumstances. I think those personal circumstances have to do with his health. Okay, those are the two apologies. And then let's move to item 3, briefing by National Treasury on their annual report. Over to you, Deputy Minister.
Thanks, Chair. Indeed, long day, quite hectic. And I really want to thank you once more for giving us this opportunity. And to honorable members, the National Treasury team, all South Africans, the media. Chair, I think 2020-2021 has been extremely challenging year, like the other previous years for National Treasury, but we have tenaciously been delivering on our ambitious annual plan under very precarious economic condition and difficult operating environment. And it is under these conditions, Chair, that we had to provide the prudent management of public resources and pro-growth economic policies. And in this regard, we've really tried our best as Treasury to carry out challenging, wide-ranging, and multiple disciplinary mandate. The work of National Treasury, in addition to support livelihood and saving lives during this pandemic, we have also directed our energies towards the national economic reconstruction and recovery plan, supporting vital economic reforms and advancing the transformation of our economy. These activities and measures also include realigning the composition of spending from consumption towards investment and support efforts to lower the cost of doing business in South Africa through Operation Vulindlela, which I think we've spoken at length about what it seeks to achieve. And I think you'll agree with me, Chair, and colleagues and South Africans, or public, everyone on this platform, that this period is arguably the most challenging period in the South African democratic era. And I do think that we need honest debate and discussions if we are to take democratic consensus on a national economic agenda in the future of economic trajectory in this country. So, Chair, today we are presenting this annual report, and we do indicate that the overall audit outcomes of National Treasury has remained constant as unqualified with findings. We have achieved 88.3% of the indicators committed in the annual performance plan of 2020-2021, and our annual expenditure amounted to 99% of the total budget. And I really want to commend the DG and the team on this outstanding performance and recognize their commitment to address areas of weakness. For a detailed engagement on this issue, Chair, I will ask the DG and the team to take us through the annual performance of National Treasury. DG, may I hand over to you to take the committee and everyone on this platform on our annual performance 2020-2021. Thank you, Chair. Over to you, DG.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, and thank you, members of Parliament and the Chair. I don't know if you are able to hear me clearly. I also have load shedding challenges here and there, so the network is not stable. I hope I'm audible enough, Chair. Am I audible, Chair?
You are audible and very visible.
Oh no, thanks for that, Chair. So maybe
are you in Brett or you are in Pretoria?
You go Malamlele, Chair.
Malamlele, there is a broadband here. We are disappointed by the load shedding.
If I was in Brett, it would be much clearer, but I'm in Pretoria currently. No, thank you.
Okay,
Chair,
no.
Let me start, Chair, by maybe starting and apologizing because there was clearly a misunderstanding in attending the briefing last week by the Auditor General on audit outcomes of the National Treasury and its entities that took place on the 9th. I mean, it would only be extraordinary circumstances that would have prevented us and the Treasury team to attend such an important presentation. As explained in our letter of apology to Chair, that we were busy, obviously, finalizing and preparing the medium-term budget policy statement, which we delivered last week. But I did receive a full report from the colleagues who attended on the important matters that were raised by this committee in considering the Auditor General's report presentation. And I will, Chair, maybe even start there so that, Chair, we take the issues that you raised very, very important and serious. Now, on slide 2, Chair, there's also the establishment of the Treasury, establishment, our mandate and our functions and powers and the responsibilities of National Treasury as articulated clearly in Chapter 3 of the Constitution and Chapter 2 of the PFMA. And we, as part of our strategy for 2025, Chair, all officials of Treasury participate in assessing and strengthening the department's vision, and we did make sure that we engage each other to best guide and obviously fortify our responding to the future demands that may be there in terms of our work, and also make sure that we rise up to the challenges that are there. And crucial to this, Chair, has been the continuous building of this institution, difficult as it may be in the last couple of years, but we try to enhance the working environment and obviously invest in a big way in our staff in terms of their own development. To this end, Chair, we've, a plan has been adopted to optimize the organization, and this is under direct oversight by the Executive Committee of the Treasury. There are certain priority areas that have been identified across the 4 pillars, which includes measures in Pillar 1 to strengthen governance. That's something very important. Strengthening governance, planning, people and financial management services. In Pillar number 2, we ensure that we build and reinforce organizational leadership and strengthen internal collaboration between protocols between divisions. And in Pillar 4, we want to make sure that we develop and strengthen organizational structures, including each areas of capacity building and reinforcing trust and enhancing communication. And in the final pillar, which is establishing and further promoting partnerships that may be there. And a key initiative as part of this plan, DG, is what I established as part of a special committee on mainstreaming and gender matters, that we made sure that it's functional and it's there. And guidance is obviously in my office. I've tasked the special committee to coordinate organizational self-introspection on this important matter on gender issues, Chair, reviewing the departmental norms, values and policies and practices, and support services that make sure and ensure that they are free from discrimination of any kind and responsive to the needs of women employees. To this end, Chair, we've had a number of engagements within the Treasury by experts outside to make sure that we actually mainstream these issues around gender. This committee, Chair, is holding the National Treasury accountable for actions and omissions, and also identifying many areas that needs to be addressed, including obviously proposing concrete change steps for the organization to transform. In addition, Chair, what I've done, and which is something that has become very relevant in our operations because the organization, especially under COVID lockdown, is very difficult. We've introduced what I call DG in Conversation initiatives. After introducing them, these are info educational campaigns around many matters that we deal with. And again, there were key critical issues that we looked at around men's mental health matters. Sometimes we take for granted that men have got mental health matters that they must deal with. Issues around youth and economic wellness and good employee relations in the workplace, including matters of bullying by colleagues, bullying by senior managers, bullying by among staff. So these are some of the many projects that we were able to introduce, and they really took us further in terms of making sure that we reposition our own organization in terms of focusing on inward organizational matters that are important. But Chair, in slide 3, just maybe getting to the issues that were raised from last week in particular, the department as it is now maintained, as the Deputy Minister indicated, we maintain an unqualified audit opinion, obviously with emphasis of matters. And while improvements were made in several areas, notably receiving no findings in respect of the annual performance report, and I must emphasize that, and improvements in supply chain management, transversal contracts, ICT governance, and areas, there remain some areas, Chair, that remain and that require special attention and strengthening in some areas. And this will specifically receive concerted attention from us as we accelerate all our efforts in achieving the performance indicator of a financial reporting clean audit, which we should all aim at. In particular, Chair, the root cause of the material misstatements identified during the audit have been isolated and identified, and the implementation of remedial steps will definitely be prioritized because we know some of these issues and we know how to address them. As expected, Chair, the Auditor General found the payments of the 67 million for the technical support maintenance of software license for the IFMS to be fruitless and wasteful. There continues to be a contestation, I'll call it that for now, a contestation between ourselves as Treasurer and the AG on this matter, and it has been ongoing for some time, and it has been the case in the last number of years. And our position on this matter was again articulated in the detailed response that we sent to the MI notice issued in this regard as response to the AG. As I said, this matter is ongoing and will continue until we find ways to actually address it. But NT will take this through the objection process, further bolstered by the legal advice obtained on this matter. So it's one of those matters, Chair, that I think it's important that the principles, outlined in why, firstly, and it was even way before my time, but it made sense, and I agree with the previous dispensation and previous DG for having taken this route on this matter. While there was a year-on-year reduction in the amount of irregular expenditure incurred, it remains a challenge, and current remedial steps are being reinforced towards preventing regular expenditure from occurring as and when we implement. Under slide number 5, Chair, sorry, slide number 4, one of the measures that is being strengthened is consequence management. I mean, we don't just leave things unattended, and especially those matters that are raised, so National Treasury does take consequence management action on all its cases of irregular expenditure. However, the length of time sometimes the process takes, and specifically the investigation, is just too long. And one may think that things are not happening, but things are happening in the background, and there's evidence to that. So I believe, and we have said it even last year, Chair, that when we talked about this, sometimes we have to emphasize and ensure that the audi alterum partem rule applies, where we have to really hear the other party, and due processes and fair, transparent process must be undertaken. Actions, therefore, Chair, are being taken to accelerate the process for the completion of these mindful compliance stipulations and employees' rights in ensuring that we do exactly that. Now, under slide number 5, as part of the issues raised from last week, we know there is progress. Progress has been made in IFMS, and it's not as rapid as I would want, of course. We would have wanted it to be more quicker, and then the final full rollout must happen. The procurement of key services to allow the program, the IFMS program, to configure the generic system and install it in 2 departments and 2 provinces, as well the accelerated implementation of the e-recruitment module by DPSA has been delayed by procurement challenges, and we can obviously talk about that. In particular, after an extended procurement process by SETA, the proposed price submitted far exceeds the budgeted amount. I think we again here, it's one of those things where I'm not just going to pay something far more than what I think it's valued at. So rather engage and negotiate the price that we've been charged, even though we shouldn't be price takers, I believe, as government, but we should just maybe where possible engage and negotiate price, whilst ensuring that we don't delay the process to a point where it becomes useless for us to continue the program. Therefore, alternative implementation methods have been proposed and are being considered by various stakeholders, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Equally, the procurement process that we've established through SETA to establish a panel of system implementers for this national rollout has also been cancelled. Our Bid Education Committee of the Treasury conducted due diligence on the procurement and resolved that it could not be recommended to the NT accounting officer. The concerns raised by small business service providers also noted, and preparations are underway for the establishment of a new panel. So again, I think we don't want to err on this project, and that's why I think we have to make sure that all the dots are, all the T's are crossed and all the dots are, I's are dotted. So it's important that we do that. On slide number 6, there are of course procurement challenges, and there's been important gains that we've made in the process. The project governance has been significantly strengthened. That is already having a positive effect on accelerating decision making, including finding a solution to the current procurement challenges. GTPS has now joined the governance structures because we could not have left them out, and SETA will be participating in the operational structures because as GTPS, SETA is an entity within the GTPS. So the DG is part of the steering committee that I'm chairing and we've been meeting on a regular basis. And I'm of the view that there is and there will be definitely progress in many areas that have been outstanding because some of the governance arrangements have been dealt with. The majority of the long outstanding project documents have been approved, with one having been approved by the steering committee and the other stakeholders signing process specifically with DPSA. So this is a good milestone because now all of the particular stakeholders are now part and they've taken responsibility. And obviously, in the last period, towards the end of the last financial year, we managed to appoint the chief director who's been instrumental in accelerating implementation. And so we are moving there. And therefore, Chair, it is envisaged that this approach would have already facilitated implementation, but by the procurement challenges, we think the program will steam ahead. The licensed technical support is in use, despite some of the obviously loose comments that other people sometimes make that they are not being in use. The licensed technical support is in use, and in order to increase utilization, the rationalization of the Oracle license is in use for IFMS modules type service across national and provincial departments is underway. So we are definitely ensuring that the technical support license are in use. Slide number 7. In response to the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chair, finding technical support is an essential requirement for the implementation of any IT system, including IFMS. It would therefore be irresponsible not to implement IFMS in the most up-to-date version of the license and introduce vulnerabilities in departments' IT systems without the latest security patches. So this is something that on its own, the program keeps on doing, and it's sure that with CETA support for hosting services and accessing tools and scripts and data collection of all of those things that they are comfortable and know very well that they do, and I'm comfortable that the support is there currently and is managed by the steering committee that is in place that I'm chairing. Of critical importance, Chair, to NT, if NT has not secured license maintenance and technical support from the onset, I must emphasize that the cost of this service would have dramatically increased to the point, at the point of support being used. So I'll come back to it because there are some facts that I think the committee and everyone who's questioning IFMS and its implementation should be aware. And as discussed previously within this committee, Chair, in addition to a significant discount of 98.25% having been secured at the time when we purchased this, it's something that we must note that that discount was given then some years ago when this licenses were secured. We also said previously that failing to renew technical support carries punitive measures, and at the time, and such technical support will be required. And reinstatement fee, once these punitive measures have been put in place, or once we stop paying for these licenses, a reinstatement fee, and these are all in agreements anyway that we've signed then with Oracle. A reinstatement fee of 150% of the net technical support fee would have been charged prorated back to the original order date of some years ago, 2016 or 2015, somewhere there. In addition to the maintenance and technical support fee for the period from contract signature to use, we will also need to be repaid, back. So it's important that for me, now, the issue of wasteful expenditure on license maintenance remains contested for these reasons. But is it fruitless and wasteful? Is it, and so again, that's an area that we're contesting, but at some point we'll obviously have to find each other. As I say, we've responded to material, irregularity that was issued to us, and we are detailing all our arguments in there. Slide number 8, in respect to the IFMS consequence management and following on from the previous presentation to this committee on the intensive process Treasury has had to follow subsequent to the NT forensic investigation, independent legal counsel assessing the submissions made by persons is underway. So I must emphasize, Chair, that we also did, by the way, our own forensic investigation, because I was also worried what's happening there, and the reports are available, and we did in the past come to this committee, even in the previous administration, outlining what the forensic investigation said. On conclusion of the process, disciplinary action was recommended in respect of 4 Treasury officials. I must emphasize that none of the charges relate to any offense of being accused of corruption. That I must make mention of clearly. None of the officials in Treasury who were highlighted as having, as disciplinary action should be taken against are accused of corruption or stealing money or receiving any bribe. None of that. Disciplinary action against one official not possible as they have left the public service prior to any discipline is being recommended, and that must carry on. A former National Treasury official now employed in another public institution was disciplined on NT's request. So this is just to demonstrate some consequence actions that management actions that were taken. And disciplinary action in respect of the 2 officials is underway with an independent chairperson hearing the case. Again, it will have its own iteration and processes, and one would not want to interfere with that. So due diligence again must take place there. The report was sent to DPSA and SETA in respect of consequent management process against officials mentioned in the report employed by these departments. So one expects that DPSA and SETA will obviously ensure that consequent management against some of those officials that were mentioned in the report will be taken. As Treasury, we are fully cooperating with all IFMS investigations. There's nothing to worry about. The public protector is having a direct interest in this because they have issued inquiries. The Hawks are also on it. SIU is on it, including the Zondo Commission. All information requested was provided to these agencies in the state, and we expect that that's part of what one can say is anyway, an investigation that must happen. And if any wrongdoing is found by these agencies of the state, then clearly, certainly, will be the first one to take action when necessary. And in respect of civil recovery, litigation by a service provider, in particular, ICT Works in this case, against Treasury is pending and is still awaiting a hearing date. And as Treasury, we have filed a counterclaim for monies that are being owed. As I said, the SIU investigation is underway, and its process will indicate if recovery from any business or individual is warranted. Again, if the report makes certain recommendations, we will act accordingly. According to their last progress report, we should expect the final report at the end of this month. So, Chair, the process of the IFMS implementation is long, it's tedious, it's got all of these issues I'm mentioning, but on the same parallel process is being undertaken by the steering committee to accelerate implementation when necessary and to ensure that this important program, system is implemented. At no point did government take a decision to stop this project. So until such that happens, one will have to steam ahead and ensure that we spend, and we also spend in a way that there's value for money. That I will not compromise on. Slide number 9. Now, Treasury achieved a year-on-year reduction of repeat audit findings. I think that's something that we must just highlight right up at the beginning. This was also in large part due to the effectiveness of the audit action plan process underway. We've got a very active internal audit division in the Treasury and a very active audit committee. So again, the checks and balances are there in the system, and we have strengthened them from time to time in the last few years. In addition to having an action plan that includes each finding, an extract of which we have provided to the committee is on the next slide, and we'll talk about this just now. We've established, as Treasury has established an action plan chaired by the GDG Corporate Service and includes the CFO, the Chief Audit Executive, the Chief Director responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation, and the Chief Risk Officer. And all of these colleagues exercise oversight on implementation of all the audit finding action plans by division, ensuring that whatever the AG has outlined, implementation of this is made and corrective measures are taken when necessary. So that audit action plan steering committee for me is quite important, and it's assisting me to ensure that we implement all the corrective measures that the AG has identified. Again, there was that question last week as to what is Treasury doing about all of these things. Further controls instituted by the steering committee include internal audit verifying actions taken by business units in the Treasury and provides assurance as to whether the audit action plan has properly addressed the findings. So as I say, we've got a very detailed, elaborate process to ensure that that happens. Additional quality assurance process have been introduced in the preparation of the quarterly and annual financial statement to reduce incidents of misstatements. And again, there's something that we have instituted in ensuring that whatever the AG raises is important, because I cannot afford to have year on year, whether it's irregular spending or whether it's fruitless and wasteful expenditure. As a Treasury, I guess all of you will agree that it cannot be, and my management exco knows that very well, and we have had intense deliberations on all of these matters that will be. If you go to slide number 10, as discussed, an extra-national Treasury audit action plan is there, and I won't go into detail, but it's there for members to look at. Chair, slide number 11. As of September 2021, NT has resolved 49% of findings as verified by internal audit, and 33% of those are in progress, and 18% remain unresolved. Slide number 12. Our current funded position vacancy rate is 16.32%, with 902 positions filled in the establishment funded positions of about 1,078. So 16.32% remains. The highest number of vacancies are in the levels 3 to 5, 9 to 12, and 13 to 16. And again, we've got details of all of those. NT, like all departments, have had to adjust budgets. We've had to slow down our recruitment process where necessary. All of those processes had to go through my office and ensure that, including low levels, that whether we agree or not, just so that we are remaining within budget, so that we don't found wanting in exceeding our budget or spending monies that we don't have. Because in that way, we'll clearly be very reckless in the way we manage our budget. So like all other departments, our budget had to be adjusted downwards. It's not like as Treasury, we can allocate ourselves money. There is a process that's above board, that's institutionalized in government, that Treasury oversees. And as a department, we also have to align ourselves to that process that our public finance colleagues, and in particular the appropriations committee, is very interested in. So as a result of these adjustments, we had to initiate the long-term management of the department's compensation budgets, of cost of employees budgets, which we've done. And again, it's there for everyone to see. And part of which has been work done in each division on developing a departmental critical skill list and prioritizing filling vacancies accordingly. Because some other, I'm not saying some levels or some positions are not critical and relevant, but we had to look at each and every department division in the Treasury and say, which positions do we accelerate in filling, and which positions do we kind of slow down because either of the importance of those particular position, or whether we have got other capabilities around the Treasury to perform such functions. So we had to really manage our budgets very tightly, as you all know that budgets across government have been cut in the last few years. Equally, in filling vacant positions, we are mindful of the review that's currently underway. We had to introduce an organizational review a few months ago, a few years ago, where we review the department in ensuring that the department is in line with what we need to do. Finally, Chair, in this regard, there has been recent delays in advertising vacancies resulting from amendments to the process as per the GPSA directive, because obviously it changes and it will impact, and we don't want to be outside the legal prescripts given by GPSA in ensuring that we are in line with whatever prescripts are required. So there were some delays, but obviously we want to fill these 138 positions across, and all of those positions that are currently vacant in slide 15 are in various stages of recruitment. Slide number 16, in respect to the committee's question on oversight of public entities that report to the Minister of Finance, I must emphasize that Minister's Office has got a number of entities that report to the Minister of Finance. And we, as National Treasury, there is support that we provide, technical support that we give to the Minister in the oversight of the role that he plays over these entities. And this particular is housed in the public entities government oversight unit, and it's also in the asset and liability management unit, and it's also in tax and financial sector policy unit. Specifically, entities are monitored to ensure achievement of mandates and policy objectives in a financially sustainable way. That's what we look at, and that's what we advise on. We also ensure that they are compliant to legislation and that their own processes are compliant with the PFMA and FMA in all of, and also with their own legislation. And they are monitored to ensure compliance to financial management and internal control systems. So most of these entities have got accounting officers, they've got their own plans, their own annual reports, their own governance arrangements, and we expect that obviously all of those should, and when need be, account directly to any parliamentary committee if need be, and obviously we'll be able to support in terms of what we pick up in that entity in our own oversight role that we play. All entities have a clean audit performance indicator in slide number 17. The Minister has promptly instructed accounting officer and accounting authorities to implement remedial actions to prevent recurrence of the Auditor General's findings on weak internal controls if they are found. Chair, the aggregate total identified fruitless and wasteful irregular expenditure and unauthorized expenditure has decreased by 52% from around 204 million in 2020 to 99 million in 2021. And this is as a result of the performance evaluation, audit finding, action plan processes that we have instituted. So entities only achieved an average of 63 of the performance indicators, and all public entities recorded corrective measures to be taken where indicators are not met. So again, we just did not leave that the matter of public entities. They've got obviously a certain responsibility where they sit. Slide 18 on the land bank. We know that the land bank does report to this committee, but given that the committee did raise matters of the land bank, I thought it's important that we just to highlight a few matters there. The finalization of the liability solution is underway with various financial institutions, and that process is underway. We are looking at that very closely. We expect the annual financial statement to be finalized by December of 2021, and because they are still underway. And as government, as a shareholder, we've committed to various funding arrangements in order to cure the bank of its default status and establish its development and transformation mandate. Something that we've been working very closely with the Department of Agriculture. So it's important that we actually re-establish the mandate of the land bank. But we have, however, in February committed to funding the land bank to the tune of 7 billion, 5 billion in the current year, and 1 billion in the last 2 financial years. There's obviously a long way, and we can see the green shoots that we can see there, but it's a long way that the bank will come back. But it's also important that the bank is accountable for their actions. They've got a board, they've got management, and again, it's important that they can account as and when needed once they are ready to face this committee, and we will obviously be there. Chair, in terms of these are the issues that I thought the committee raised in the last meeting that was held with the AG. So I hope I've dealt with almost all of those, unless if there are any we can explain that later. I would, Chair, with your permission, like to hand over to Laura. Laura is our Chief Director, Strategic Planning and Evaluation, and she's also head of my office, and she will then present our performance for 2021, and she will then start with slide number 19 onwards in taking the committee through some of the issues and the work of the department to date. Laura, please.
Thank you very much, DG. Good evening, Chair and committee members. If I can please request that I switch off my video just to maintain the integrity of the audio given current situation. In terms of the department's 2020-21 service delivery focus areas, it included coordinating the national budget process, monitoring and analysing public expenditure, as well as managing future spending growth and fiscal risk, coordinating fiscal relations between the 3 spheres of government, with emphasis on ensuring sound budgetary planning at provincial and local levels of government, providing advice and input into tax policy frameworks and legislation, as well as strengthening financial sector regulations, conducting research into strategic areas of the economy to better inform the implementation of economic policy, managing government's annual funding program by way of optimally managing public debt, ensuring that government's liquidity requirements are met through effective cash management, and overseeing state-owned companies to enable the achievement of government's policies and objectives in a manner that is financially and fiscally sustainable. Treasury also focused on strengthening public sector financial management, as well as improving financial management governance and compliance across all spheres of government and in government entities, managing government's financial systems and overseeing and improving government supply chain management systems, and making government procurement more transparent, effective, efficient, and economical. On advancing South Africa's national economic interest within the context of reputable international institutions, dealing with economic development and facilitating regional and international cooperation, and supporting infrastructure development in economic integrated cities and communities. To this end, National Treasury achieved 88.50% of that target was realized. As part of optimizing the organization plan, EXCO has identified 6 annual priorities, one of which specifically tasks the strengthening of the performance of these 2 divisions, with the root cause of the underperformance to be rectified. As part of the audit of performance outcomes, the AG specifically audited Program 5, Financial Accounting and Supply Chain Management Systems, and we're pleased to inform the committee that the AG did not identify any material findings on the usefulness and reliability of the reported performance information for this program, and this constitutes an improvement on the previous year. In terms of Program 1, which is administration, they achieved 100% of their indicators. Key in this program is to note that the AG in their annual audit recognized the improvement in 2 indicator areas, namely non-financial performance information and risk management. Although NT did receive findings on financial performance information, it is recognized that there were 37.7% fewer findings than in the 2019-20 financial year on financial performance information. National Treasury continued the program to modernize and automated processes across the department. Whilst this program has been ongoing, the response mounted by NT to the COVID-19 national shutdown advanced the facilitation of seamless working remotely by ensuring universal access to mobile IT work instruments and the ability to conduct work virtually. In addition, the various process automation projects currently being undertaken have started to gain momentum. Key to these is the work being undertaken by OCPO to introduce advanced automated procurement-related systems, automation of HR processes, including e-recruitment, and the rollout of the bespoke organizational performance management and monitoring system designed by NT to automate and integrate risk management, organizational performance management, demand management, budgeting, audit finding registers, and employee performance planning and monitoring. Prompted by the impact of the pandemic, National Treasury has undertaken several internal stakeholder engagement processes to assess the effect of the adapted working conditions on the employees of National Treasury. The department has further embraced and implemented appropriate, practical, and agile approaches to our human resources and employee relations. People's matters continues to be a priority, and we continue to be focused on diversity management, providing employee wellness services, targeting edu information sessions on health, well-being, and financial matters, as well as campaigns on good work relations and practices. Further focus is placed on implementing the annual training program to ensure continuous development of NT employees. This, along with the graduate development program, continues to provide for a pipeline management and enables a structured approach to the National Treasury's practice of building our own timber. This is supported by rotational and secondment opportunities for employees to gain experience in promoting career progression. Continuous focus will remain on good governance and effecting a sound control environment, with further embedding of the fully operationalized planning ecosystem that enables planning and monitoring from chief director operational level up to National Treasury's strategic outcomes reflected in the MTSS. This integrated planning and monitoring network enables informed analysis and evidence-based decision-making. Program 2, Economic Policy, Tax and Financial Regulation and Research, also achieved 100% of their indicators. NT recognizes the significant contribution the Southern African towards inclusive economic development, or generally known as SA TIDE program, continues to make in strengthening our understanding of key policy matters, deepening the policy knowledge repository, and significantly contributing to the policy debate, so as to inform our economic growth agenda and the policy options that undergirdle it. In this reporting period, 64 papers were published, significantly contributing to evidence-based policy research and building the economic policy capacity of the state. Also, Treasury delivered the second draft of the Conduct of Financial Institutions Bill. The board of the Ombud Council was appointed, and the decision and support by NEDLAC social partners to proceed with the harmonization of retirement benefits emanating from provident funds was most welcome. The Financial Sector Laws Amendment Bill was introduced in Parliament, and a draft technical paper entitled Financing a Sustainable Economy was published. Work was done with the Financial Service Department of SARB to put in place a new capital flow management system that will simplify cross-border trade and financial flows while tightening the system to combat sophisticated financial crimes and detect unexplained wealth and suspicious financial flows. Analysis of monetary and exchange rate policy in light of global and financial markets events was conducted, as well as research on growth policy. Work continued on the macroeconomic framework review, and it is anticipated that the first draft will be completed by March 2022. Program 3, Public Finance and Budget Management, which includes the Budget Division, IGR, and Public Finance, achieved 88.24% of their indicators. The National Treasury resolutely continued to deliver on our primary responsibility of ensuring fiscal sustainability. The challenges of this reporting period was acutely present during the budget process, with the Budget Office effectively leading 3 budget processes during a time of particular fiscal constraints in a stressed economy, while having to secure funding for the much-needed government response to the COVID-19 pandemic support package. South Africa continues to be recognized globally for the transparency of its budget process, as well as the budget outreach activities conducted with a wide cross-section of South African society, thereby enabling a better understanding of the budget. Effective and efficient use of scarce public resources by spending agencies has been supported through stringent monitoring, with a number of spending reviews having been completed as a precursor to the introduction of zero-based budgeting. NT continues to oversee budgetary planning and execution in national departments and advise on financial and budget aspects of public policy and spending proposals. Details of the significant work done with all departments have been recorded in the annual report in respect of supporting departments to deliver on their mandate effectively and efficiently. Fiscal relations between national, provincial, and local spheres of government were coordinated, encouraging sound budgetary planning at the provincial and local sphere of government, and capacity was built, enabling good public finance practices. The 2020 Division of Revenue Bill included an additional 10.4 billion for provinces over the medium term to respond to subsequent waves of COVID-19 pandemic and for administering the COVID-19 vaccines. Also, a number of new grants were introduced, including a standalone informal settlement upgrade grant and the program and project preparation support grant for metros to assist with the development of investment-ready capital programs and projects. Continuous improvement has been made to the conditional grant monitoring framework for local government. The transfer to Schedule 4 and 5 allocations was stopped to 106 municipalities, with the unspent funds being reallocated to municipalities that have fast-tracked implementation of projects and have the capacity to spend in full. Change agent programs such as the Jobs Fund, the Municipal Finance Improvement Program, and the City Support Program continue to deliver on national imperatives and departmental priorities. As part of attracting increased private sector investment and building a pipeline of blended finance projects, the Ppp Framework review was initiated to streamline a regulatory process. 35 rather than 36 infrastructure plan assessment reports were produced, with the underperformance attributed to Northern Cape Department of Health not submitting the user asset management plan for assessment. The National Treasury has engaged with National Health on this matter, and challenges that were experienced are mostly institutional matters and are being addressed by National Health. 5,687 million value of grant funding dispersed, which was below the planned 5,778 million. Underperformance is attributed to a number of factors that included the impact of lower than expected economic growth, exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic on project performance. But we must give comfort to the committee that whilst these factors impacted the ability of projects to operate effectively and achieve project targets, grant funding is dispersed only upon the achievement of targets. Program 4, Assets and Liability Management, achieved 100% of their targets, and efforts continue to stabilize state-owned companies, exercising exacting oversight to better enable these institutions contribute to government's developmental objectives in a financially and fiscally sustainable way. We have discussed, and I understand earlier today it was referred to, that the Minister approved the minimum criteria that must be met by state-owned entities and government departments when submitting requests for government guarantees. When fully implemented, these will ensure that guarantees are issued only to SOEs that can clearly demonstrate their ability to service the debt acquired on the back of government guarantees. Public debt and funding of government borrowing requirements, as well as its cash resources, were optimally managed. Program 5, Financial Accounting and Supply Chain Management, achieved 58.33% of their targets, partially achieved 25%, and did not achieve 16.67%. The National Treasury did in this area strengthen its commitment to advancing ethical behaviour and good governance in public finance management through various monitoring mechanisms, investigating processes and capacity building initiatives across all spheres and entities of government, giving effect to the PFMA and the MFMA. In addition to conducting forensic investigations and specialised performance audits, National Treasury provided extensive support to the Fusion Centre and the investigations into the Ppp corruptions. A significant impact continued to be made in providing training opportunities for 1,200 interns in the financial year. In addition, 9,500 municipal officials accessed training, 8,000 registered for the e-learning MFMA induction program, and 19 trainee accountants were recruited into the Chartered Accountants Academy. 2 workplace practice-based internal audit short learning programs were delivered with 200. Work continued in strengthening public sector financial management, as well as improving financial management governance and compliance across all spheres of government. A draft unauthorised, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure reduction strategy for municipal sphere was developed, as well as an automated electronic and web-enabled audit action plan is being piloted. Strategic procurement was further developed and progress made on the draft public procurement bill. We received nearly 4,000. It is anticipated that the bill will definitely be tabled early in the new year. Procurement information was strengthened with the introduction of the dashboard on COVID on the National Treasury websites. Important learnings were learned in terms of providing this kind of procurement information, and these learnings are now being adopted into an information tool that will be expanded in the future to include all public procurement information. 41 transversal contracts were renewed in categories such as transport, medical services, education services, voice and telecommunication, and clothing and textiles. 48 governance reports were produced, less than the planned 95. Underperformance is attributed to the delay in the procurement process in the appointment of the new panel of service providers. However, these service providers have since been appointed, and the governance reports that were not produced are being finalised in the current financial year. 18 public financial management capacity development programs progress reports were produced, less than the planned 28. Underperformance is attributed to capacity development programs being delayed due to facilitators being occupied by the finalisation of the consolidated financial statements that took longer than anticipated. These programs that were not delivered are being finalised in the current financial year. 59% implementation of the strategic sourcing opportunities plan was unfortunately less than the planned 100%. And this underperformance is attributed to the bid specification committee meetings not being convened due to unavailability of members, resulting in bids not being approved. Discussions are currently being held in order to resolve any challenges experienced with the calling and the collating of bid specification committees. IFRS implementation remains a challenge due to procurement delays, although governance was strengthened in respect of previous AGSA audit finding areas. One quarterly compliance report was produced, less than the planned 40. The underperformance is attributed to reports being finalized outside of the stipulated timeframes due to an increase in the number of requests for deviation, condonation, extensions, and variations, which were mainly resulting from the inability of government institutions to tender during the national lockdown period. This was further exacerbated by capacity constraints within the Chief Directorate, which is being addressed through current recruitment. The process to fill the vacant positions in the Chief Directorate has commenced, and as indicated by the DG, this is one of the areas of priority. Program 6, International Financial Relations, achieved 100% of their indicators. The National Treasury secured a US $4.3 billion in emergency support from the International Monetary Fund to address COVID-19 pandemic consequences. This assistance was secured through the Rapid Financing Instrument, which does not require IMF policy conditionality. In September, the African Development Bank approved a loan of just below $5 billion for South Africa's COVID-19 response. In addition, the program supported South Africa's effective engagement in the approval of the International Development Association's, the concessional fund of the World Bank Group, and the response to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. This included the approval to make US $70 billion of concessional finance available to low-income countries, of which 37 are in Africa, to support their COVID-19 recovery efforts. Throughout 2020, the National Treasury coordinated engagements between the World Bank and various government departments in respect of the new country partnership framework between South Africa and the bank. This program supports the work of the Minister of Finance and the budget oversight role at the African Union through the Committee of 15 Finance Ministers, and exercises oversight over the effective governance of the SACU Secretariat by participating in the quarterly Finance and Audit Committee meetings. During the reporting period, National Treasury led South Africa's effective engagement and coordination with the Finance Tracker Group 20, where it advocated for the country's economic and financial interests. Critical to this was drafting South Africa's 2020 financial strategy for engagement with the G20, which was endorsed by the Cabinet. Program 7 on civil military pensions, contribution to funds and other benefits achieved 100% of their indicators as it relates to the SLA between NT and JEPA. In terms of human capital, in addition to the presentation and information provided to the DG, by the DG, NT's total staff complement is by the end of that financial year was 1,030, of which 89% are Black, 59% female, and 0.87% of the NT total staff complement are persons with disabilities. Whilst this target has increased, Treasury is still focusing efforts on ensuring that we attain our target of 1%. 96.1% of SMS members entered into performance agreements, and those that did not have been issued with letters of intention to institute disciplinary action. Only 22% of employees participated in skills development and leadership programs during this financial year. The uptake was low as this year was severely affected by the hard lockdown, and the momentum towards online and virtual training has picked up towards the end of the financial year, and we can confirm to the committee that the training has increased significantly in this financial year. In terms of Treasury's audit financial performance, NT spent 99% of our budget, with the largest portion of the underspend on machinery and equipment. Actual expenditure for the 2020-21 year was 34.082 billion, compared to the final appropriation of 34.527 billion. This reflects an underspend of 445.9 million. There was underspending of 81.7 million in compensation of employees due to vacant positions, the non-implementation of performance bonus, and bonuses and the suspension of the implementation of the COLA. The 175.6 million underspending in goods and services was mainly due to IFMS, delays in appointment of the panel of forensic investigation firms, the Employment Creation Facilitation Fund, government pension administration agencies, and savings in T&S travel. In respect of transfers and subsidies, which the committee will know is the largest portion of the NT budget, the main component of the 165.4 million underspend related to post-retirement medical benefits, the Jobs Fund grant, and to GTAC. In respect of capital assets, the underspend of 23 million is mainly within the ICT area, relating to the replacement of the backup solution hardware and laptops, which could not be delivered due to the unanticipated worldwide delays in this area. Payment of financial assets had a slight overspend due to irrecoverable debt that was written off in the current financial year. However, this overspend was offset against the department's underspend. NT spent, as we've indicated, 99% of the budget, up from 97% of the previous year. Transfers and subsidies is the first largest spender and constitutes 69% of the total spend. Payment for financial assets is the second largest spender, mainly due to the capital installments to the new development bank for the BRICS Bank, World Bank, and African Development Bank, for the acquisition of shares, as well as the recapitalization to the Land Bank in the 2020-21 financial year. The underspending on both financial years was largely on the integrated financial management system, the post-retirement medical benefits, compensation to employees, as well as the municipal revenue management improvement program. Thank you very much, DG. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, our presentation ends here, and we are more than happy to engage the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, DG, and your team. I've breached the protocol at the beginning by not acknowledging a very important office. The Office of the Auditor General is here. I see Sokombela and his team, and also acknowledge the presence of SARS. These are independent offices which are very important, and they must be accorded the necessary respect that they deserve. Apology, colleagues, for not acknowledging you at the beginning of the meeting. Let's now come to item on discussions. Clarity seeking questions and comments by members. Members, over to you. Alan, you will assist me with the hands. I see Dr. George for now. I see Mhlonishwa, Skosani. And then, yeah, let me take the two members for now. If there are other hands, you will assist me. Ellen, from your side. Dr. George, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks very much for the presentation. I just want to know that there was a significant number on irregular expenditure. I want to know how many staff members have been dismissed as a consequence of this, or how many have been subjected to criminal action as a result of this. So that's basically on the consequence management. And then I'd like to find out what's going on with the tender bulletin. The government website says that the government printing works is currently experiencing technical difficulties in publishing the tender bulletin. And then the National Treasury issued an instruction to utilize the e-tender publication portal in the interim and that was from February 2021. So I would like to know what is going on with the tender bulletin. And then finally, on the Government Pensions Administration Agency, there does seem to be a significant problem with the administration of the Government Employees Pension Fund. Now, as a member of Parliament, I am getting a number of queries from people regarding the fact that they haven't received their benefit, or there's something gone wrong, delayed in the process, etc. So there is clearly something going wrong there. I have escalated a number of queries recently on that, but the fact that members need to reach out to members of Parliament to get helped is obviously an indication that there is a problem. So I want to know whether the Treasury is aware of any administration problems at the Government Employees Pension Fund, and if so, what are they doing about it? I think that's very, very important in terms of their strategic objectives, because that is a fundamental service provided to those members. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Dr. George. Hlonishwa Skhosana, over to you.
No, yeah, Yatogoza, Hlonishwa Sihlalo, and greetings to all honorable members, including the Deputy Minister and the team from the Treasury, led by the DG and also the Office of the AG. Yeah, we want to acknowledge and appreciate the report from the National Treasury, as well as I think the remarks made by the Deputy Minister. And I think we want to appreciate the fact that the department has been able to achieve 88.3% of its performance indicators. I think that's very, very good. However, the worrying factor, Honorable Chair, is the issue of the AG report, because the AG report has remained unchanged, I think, for the third year in a row now, if I'm not mistaken, which is, as the DG indicated, it is an unqualified report with matters of emphasis. Well, the unqualified audit report with matters of emphasis is not a very bad report from the AG, but also it's not that good, especially for the National Treasury, because National Treasury, I think it's a custodian of good governance, financial management, and internal controls. So obviously, we would expect it to get a clean audit. I think we don't expect anything less than a clean audit from National Treasury, because it's having a very huge responsibility of monitoring other departments and other entities to make sure that they use internal controls and good financial management and all those things. So it will be very difficult for National Treasury to convince other departments and other entities to get in audit when it is unable to get it itself as the National Treasury. So it is a matter of concern, and I believe that we are not raising this matter for the first time as honorable members of this committee. I think we did raise it even last time, even in our BRRR report. So I would like to impress upon the National Treasury to make sure that they attend to this particular matter. And I would want to know, though I had the DG trying to explain and indicating that there are also matters of contestation between themselves and the office of the AG as far as the audit outcome is concerned. But I want to find out, perhaps for in future, Honorable Chair, as to see what are the processes that the National Treasury is putting in place in order to avoid obtaining the same audit outcome in the next financial year. What are the other processes, maybe extraordinary measures that they are going to take just to make sure that they get out of this audit outcome and go directly to clean audit? And again, can the National Treasury provide us with a comprehensive response to the matters raised by the Auditor General? All these matters of emphasis, can we get a comprehensive response from the National Treasury to say how do they respond to them, so that we are able to gauge on the issue of matters of contestation, and as to whether in the next financial year will they be able to get out of this audit opinion. And maybe one should also make a request, perhaps for us as the Committee of Parliament, to also assist the department, because I have seen that the audit action plans there. I think it has always been there, even in the previous years. But perhaps if for us to also be able to monitor it and to assist, I would want to make a request that through the permission of the committee, that the National Treasury perhaps submit a progress report on the audit action plan quarterly to the committee, so that we are also part of the process to monitor and advise, so that we don't only come at the end of the year and criticize them, but if there could be quarterly progress report on the audit action plan, so that we are able to look at it and comment and whatever, so that at the end of the year we don't just come in and criticize, but we would have been part of the process and we all know what went and so forth. And perhaps lastly, Honorable Chair, on the issue of the officials that are under investigation or that are attending disciplinary processes, like the teachers indicated, I just want to find out as to how long have these investigations or disciplinary processes have been ongoing, and when will they be completed? Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm done, Chair. Thank you very much.
Siyathokoza Mhlonishwa Sikhosana. Any other hand from honorable members? Alan, I can't see more hands here in the platform.
There's none currently, Chair, and there's also nothing on the chat.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Let me also make a comment. Thanks. Let me welcome the report from the Treasury, Deputy Minister DG. Let me also comment or acknowledge that there are entities that have achieved unqualified audit with no findings. So they achieved the clean audit. It will be very important for us as this committee to acknowledge officials who work in government under very difficult circumstances to perform to this level. Because it should not be like every time auditees come to Parliament, we only complain about them not complying. But those that perform very well should be commended for the good work done. So, Deputy Minister, I think you should pass our word of gratitude to those entities. Be that as it may, we have got challenges here. In terms of the Auditor General's report, we have got auditors that struggle with legislation compliance, DG, and audit action plans. Amongst others is the National Treasury, the department itself, what Honorable Scosaro was raising, that this department was supposed to lead by example, because National Treasury is not like any other department. It's derived, its existence right from the Constitution. I think it's the only department that is mentioned by name in the Constitution and given original powers. Unlike other powers, I mean, other departments, when they are established by the president, he has to define their powers. So that was done for a specific purpose. So for National Treasury to struggle with compliance when it comes to legislation, DG, is a cause for concern, and something must be done in that regard. FFC, PIC, ERBA, CBDA, GPA, GTEC, and SARS. The audit raised concerns about these auditees. And DG, you have alluded to the fact that you do have audit action plans. Yes. However, the audit has picked up that in some of the auditees, these audit action plans are not effective. There has been an improvement in regard to consequence management, I think by more than 53%. However, there are still other auditees under National Treasury that are still struggling when it comes to consequence management, or they are lagging behind and also not complying with the legislation. So I don't think it is acceptable for auditors not to struggle with, to struggle with legislation compliance. Why should state entities violate the laws of the Republic and nothing is being done about them? It's unacceptable. This in-community marriage of property that you have with what do you call it? It's not IFMS. What is this relationship all about? Because the Auditor General has picked up that despite serious challenges that Treasury has with this IFMS, you have extended their contract to 2026. Why? Why do you do that? I mean, this has been a problem. I've been looking at previous reports of this standing committee. They have been raising very serious challenges even before some of us came to this committee about the IFMS. And if you look at previous reports from the Auditor General, they have been picking serious issues of irregularities when it comes to IFMS. Even now, the Auditor General raises very critical issues. But we see here, you have extended the contract. What is the rationale? We must be given the rationale that with all these serious challenges, you continue to have this in-community of property relationship with this IFMS? What is there something that we as public representatives and the public does not know about the relationship of National Treasury and IFMS? Is only known by you, that you can't severe cut a relationship with them. We need to be explained so that we understand or acknowledge the challenges that you have, DG. The issue of the land bank, unless something is done drastically, it will end up collapsing. We are very worried about the land bank. Previous reports of Auditor General have picked up very serious issues. Lots of money have been allocated in the form of bailouts to land bank, but yielding minimal outcome. I think, I don't know, if you remember, land bank originally is an entity of the Department of Land Reform. And I think the president made a proclamation, signed a proclamation to bring it to Treasury, that there's going to be an improvement in terms of governance and management. But we don't see that improvement. Instead, even now, the Auditor General has picked up that there is an outstanding audit when it comes to land bank. So I don't know what else are you doing, because it was brought to your department for a reason. It was struggling when it was in land reform, but the situation is getting worse. And if this bank can collapse, it is going to cause very serious problems to the agricultural sector and the economy in general. Over to you, Deputy Minister DG and your team. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. May I allow the DG and the team to respond? I will come after them if it's okay with you, Chair. DG, over to you.
Thanks, Diam. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, all members, for the questions and the comments that were made. Chair, let me start with the issue that you're raising. In community of property marriage that we have with IFMS. IFMS is a program, Chair. It's a system, integrated financial management system. It's the same as Logis, it's the same as Persal, it's the same as BAS. And that's now what IFMS attempts to do is to integrate all of these legacy systems that are based on old platforms, etc. We're trying to bring them in an integrated fashion so that we can improve reporting and we can improve accountability by departments and actually modernize the financial management of government. That's what IFMS is aiming at doing. In fact, I would even in the same breath propose that we have a dedicated session with the committee on IFMS. I come with CETA, I come with DPSA, I come with communications, and we talk IFMS because there's a misconception about a number of things, and if that is left unattended, it may just render or actually drag further the Treasury and government and the whole government system in South Africa into a wrong, into the mud, basically. So I think it's important, Chair, that we bring that. And then we explain and then we interact with the committee in openly and tell you where we are at, and then we can then do exactly that. And we always saying is that we have to weigh the cost of canceling the program and vis-a-vis the cost of fully implementing the program to where we are at, and we can gauge where we are at vis-a-vis the cost of canceling and what canceling would mean, and then we But in terms of whether there are matters of corruption or whether there are issues that talks to, you know, anything that may be untoward, I indicated earlier, Chair, that the SIU, Zondo Commission, the Hawks, and the Public Protector are on this matter. And I'm awaiting those reports, including our own forensic including our own forensic report that was independently done. And we can look at that, and in that way, the decision can then be taken. I, as the accounting officer, I'm not necessarily married to this in a way that, you know, but if the experts in the area, I'm informed, IT, a system, implementation of a system like IFMS is huge. It's not easy. It's not one of those easy systems to implement. And on its own, IT environment is very complex, highly skilled, you know, obviously, you know, individuals are needed to run this thing. And we struggled in the early days, at least when I became DG. There was a program where I even had to stop any implementation of anything to do with IFMS for a good 8 or so months because of the challenge that the program was facing at the time. I can be blamed for that, but I'd rather be blamed than spending money and that's going to waste. Or I'd rather pause and ensure that we do things the right way in order to save the fiscal some money. But again, I'm open, Chair, on that. I'm offering ourselves to come at any time to engage the committee fully on the IFMS program and where it is at, and then all stakeholders will be in the room and we can explain our role, explain the governance arrangements of the program, including reports. We can even make minutes which are properly kept for the program on all the steering committee engagements to make available to committee members and put all of the program to scrutiny, because I think this is all that we should be about and ensuring that we implement this program. The land bank, Chair, money is being spent, money was spent. You are correct. Many years ago, not recently, not in the last 5 years or 6 years, no, many years ago, the department took over the functioning of land bank. It improved. The turnaround was there under Pagamani Hadebe as soon as he left the Treasury to be the CEO of land bank. We turned the place around, and then it went on for a while. But look, land bank has got it, the board is there, they've got their fiduciary responsibilities, they're responsible for their own strategy, and obviously they have to be kept in check. And I think, again, our engagement with land bank obviously is limited in many ways, because there you've got a board which is implementing a strategy, and they must be held accountable. They are an executive, accounting authority. They must come in. They must come in, and obviously we will obviously be there, as I said in my opening remarks. So again, Chair, as soon as they are ready, we will be here to engage and to actually explain where we are to the liability solution, to turn the place around, where they are in terms of supporting small and medium Black business in particular, Black farmers in particular, or emerging farmers. So again, it can be an elaborate conversation that must be had. I agree with you, Chair. We cannot, and I did say in my opening remarks, and I'm happy, Chair, almost all senior managers of National Treasury are on the call, except those that are currently at SCOPA with the colleagues in the CPO. They are currently engaged with SCOPA on deviations and extensions. I'm happy you're saying these things, because these are things that we're talking about, that we cannot where we are at in any way find ourselves on the wrong side, because as Honorable Skosana says, we should be exemplary as the National Treasury to many government departments and entities and state-owned companies. But it is in the units and the divisions that some of these things happen. Honorable George, it's not a matter of someone that have been fired for having stolen or no. None of those things, at least, are currently is what we are dealing with. It's not complying to, again, it's equally wrong. not complying to prescripts, not keeping records not making records available where they should be. And of course, the bulk of which is this, fruitless and wasteful expenditure identified. And again, the details of both irregular spending and fruitless and wasteful expenditure are there in terms of, what they constitute. But I take it, and with no apologies, with no reservation, sorry, on the fact that Honorable Skosana and Chair, you're raising on an issue which should be, and it is a cause of concern for myself, and no matter the complex nature of the kind of the things that we find ourselves in, it is unacceptable for us not to be compliant with our own rules and regulations. But however, on issues of principle, and that's where the contestation I'm talking about comes in, that we are arguing principle, we are arguing interpretation, and it's important, and then we have to obviously find each other with the Auditor General. I understand the Public Audit Act puts a lot of focus on me as accounting officer, and I'm aware, Chair, my small little house can be taken by the AG and the legalistic process that are underway because of what the Public Audit Act is all about. But I'm arguing an issue of principle here on the material irregularity that they've issued against us, on an issue of IFMS and what they're arguing. And that's a contestation I'm prepared to even go to court for and argue. But again, we are not finding each other. It remains an issue of contestation, but the issue, they know the issue as the AG, and it's with them. So it's something that we will grapple with until at the point because I'm arguing, and I did in my presentation list the implications of not paying the 60 cents, the license fees, and what it will mean. And in that briefing, Chair, that we'll come to, we will take out records that demonstrate what went into the accounting former head of Treasury or former DG of the Treasury's head what was going on in his mind when he applied his mind to actually take on these licenses. What informed, and I will ask myself and anyone, I've been asking the AG this for many years now, that if at a given point in time, there's a potential saving of the state in excess of 400 million, what would I do with what's on the table, with a program that must be implemented based on the facts available at the time? So he made a call, and as an accounting officer, we continuously make calls like those, by the way. In some cases, we will fail, but in some cases, we will win. But let us be judged fairly on matters like this. And I don't want to be emotional about this issue that I've been having with for many years with the AG, because clearly it keeps on coming, and it simply suggests that there's something untoward that we are doing because of what is in the public domain around fruitless and wasteful expenditure about the license fees, and how this is viewed. But it's something that we will have to cautiously take issue with and deal with it until it's addressed in a way that will be addressed. I'm not alone. Some of the colleagues are on the call. They'll obviously come in. Honorable Skosana, you are correct. You are correct, and I did confirm earlier on that your matters that you raised are, for me, 88.3% is not good enough. We should be at 100%. We should not be having any emphasis of matter. We should be unqualified with no emphasis. And I said I agree with you, but it's something that we'll continuously work on and improve, including, and I welcome the challenge you're giving us, and the colleagues are listening here, to submit our audit action plan to this committee on a quarterly basis. That will also, and that I welcome oversight by any committee. And I'm the first person to call in for a parliamentary body like committee like this one, playing a serious oversight on us. And that's what in other areas, when we engage with agencies, when we give talks around efficiency in spending and accountability in the public management of public finances, we call on agencies in government to hold us accountable, whether it's provinces, whether it's municipalities, whether it's national government, parliament. we welcome this, and I think submitting this and will keep us checked all the time. Now, in terms of the GC processes, one would want that we deal with it and it's done. But as I said, these are legalistic processes by nature. The availability of the chair becomes an issue. The availability of witnesses become an issue. The availability of those that, I mean, if a person says, I'm not available, I'm off sick, or I can't make it, you know, obviously postponements happen, but again, I cannot give you a date, unfortunately, but one will really call for these processes, most of which, by the way, are chaired by independent outside people from the Treasury, that they be completed as soon as possible. Laura will come in terms of some of the specifics there around you know, the tender bulletin and what's happening there. And what's happening, Honorable George, we also get the same, Dr. George. I get calls all the time, and Shahid Khan, you know, he's on my speed dial, you know, about some of the complaints that we get also on the performance of GPAR and the processing of, you know, pensions of people who leave. Clearly, there is a challenge in terms of, you know, the complaints that are coming through, but you know, all what can say is that systems must be streamlined, automate. I mean, I know if people will say we phone that number continuously, it rings, no one picks it up. Again, it's all efficiencies that we wish to call, because when you and I or others make intervention where need be, or where people are complaining directly to us, you find that these things are dealt with quickly and then they're addressed. But it shouldn't be. I think an agency like that one should be able to have their systems in place and processes. And it shouldn't, there's no reason why it should take too long, because the pension fund number is known, the ID number is known, the tax status of the individual can be assessed quickly. And nowadays it's all automated, so it couldn't be. So technology should be used there efficiently. We'll certainly get into the details, and if need be, we will obviously come back to the committee and say, indicate to the committee what have we done about some of the things that are raised. I don't know if some of my colleagues are on the call. I see at least, you know, I don't know if I saw Momo here, I saw other colleagues, Madi Jane, Karen are also here from the OAG side. Laura, do you want to answer some of the, give some of the response before some of the colleagues come through? Laura?
Thank you very much, DG. Just in terms of the tender bulletin, Treasury is equally concerned when any platform that provides information is not effectively up and running. And this is in respect of the tender bulletin that falls under the government printers. However, we do take comfort in that Treasury has is using a parallel process to ensure that the tender information is available and accessible. And that is that the e-tender is up and running and is used by all organs of state. So both platforms are used for advertising tenders. The one is electronic and the other one's hard copy. So whilst we wait for the tender bulletin issues to be resolved, the electronic e-tender process is available. In terms of measures that we're taking to address some of the areas that need strengthening towards us attaining what is known as a clean audit. As we've indicated, the audit action plan is a key instrument for us, but more importantly is the steering committee. The steering committee reports directly to the DG, and they call the audit finding owners to present to the steering committee how far they have progressed on addressing their audit findings. And once they submit that they have progressed, internal audit verifies that progress. And the fact that we've managed to reduce the repeat audit findings is to a large extent. This committee's work is now starting to find traction and is having an impact, and we're expecting it to have a far greater impact in terms of not only reducing repeat audit findings, but in fact embedding the learnings into the organization, identifying where we have areas that seems to have repeat weaknesses, and able to resolve those, the root causes of that, which will mean that we don't have new audit findings in those areas. In respect of the quality of the performance of the financial information, we have put in place additional quality assurance processes, including internal audit would need to verify all of the financial statements prior to closure, so that we can identify and address any challenges prior to it being submitted to the AG, as well as we bringing in additional capacity to assist in putting together the financial statements, so that we can address some of those areas that we have been that we may have made errors in, that could have been prevented. In terms of IFMS, as the DGs indicated, we'll come in specifically and speak to it, and we will also then talk, whilst we did have a slide explaining the consequence of not renewing the license. And that consequence not only would place the actual system at risk, because we'll be using an older version of license when we roll it out, but it would place other departments' IT systems at risk because the security patches would be old. Also, there's a direct financial implication, given that there's 150% punitive fee that we would draw, which would in itself be wasteful expenditure. But that the amount that we did not pay from date of license to date of utilization, we would then have to pay at the point of utilization. I'm sure we will provide all of that data as indicated when we do a specific presentation. DG, I'm hoping that I've addressed the issues that needed to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Tim, is there anyone who wants to come in? Maybe I don't see any hand, but it's fine, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Jim? Dr. Masondo?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, DG, and your team for those responses. I think, Chair, on the land bank, if I'm not mistaken, we agree that we'll come back and deal with it specifically, and perhaps we might need, so that we maximize the time and focus, if it will be possible from the planning side, that we combine both the proposal of the DG that we need to come back on the IFMS, just to, and together with other relevant department and entities. And I will also add that I think if possible, AG, even if it's just from the observer status, so that they also observe the conversations on this issue, because it's an issue that affects a number of departments.
Recording stopped.
How AG treats it, it's quite important. And I think insofar as the IFMS, we can also discuss on the nature of the system, the project plan that the DG has just outlined, maybe go into detail on how we're seeking to deal with this issue, what are the milestones, and this project chair, as DG has indicated, it's him who's overseeing it. There's an assigned chief director who's project managing it. And I think in that conversation, we can have a comprehensive and integrated conversation on this. I want to agree with DG that we come back on this issue. And the land bank, like I said, I think the liability solution is being discussed between ourselves and the land bank itself, including the lenders. And Chair, I think we all aware about the
Recording
nature
in progress.
that we're dealing with here, where the liability problem emanated from. Land bank borrowed from lenders on short-term payment, 1 year, but lent out to commercial farmers on long-term, 5-year term. So there's a mismatch there between the terms of borrowing from lenders and the land bank as a lender to the farmers. So like I said, there are conversations on how we find a liability solution to this problem. So it's something that I'm fully aware. The minister, it's one of the things that upon assuming his responsibility, he made it one of his priorities. So I think when we come back, we can report progress on this matter. And we fully agree with you that the consequences of not finding a solution on this matter, it's quite huge. There's also other implications around cross default and all this kind of thing. So it's something that we need to come back to. As to whether we'll have to come back separately from the IFMS discussion, I think it will be guided by yourself, Chair. And if this is, and I also want to say that we take the point that we should do our best as National Treasury, and we are indeed trying to do our best in terms of both compliance as well as performance, so that we should have a better audit outcome. So we fully take the point, and we do try our best, Chair, including on finding a solution to the IFMS. And we'll pass your gratitude, Chair, to the best performing entities within the finance family. We really appreciate that they are also doing us proud in terms of their performance. But we appreciate your feedback, and we will improve as we go along. But on these other two issues that we've highlighted, we are willing to come back and have a much more comprehensive and integrated conversation on this. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thanks, Deputy Minister, DG. Members, are there follow-up questions or clarity-seeking questions? Over to you. I don't see members who will want to make follow-up questions from my side here. Okay, if that's the case, let's move towards a conclusion. Deputy Minister, are there other remarks that you want to make before we close the meeting?
It's been a long day, Chair.
Okay.
It's been a long day, but thank you so much for this opportunity. And like we said, we'll come back on the issues that you said we need more time and more focused conversations on. But thank you very much for your feedback, your comment and support and guidance on all the issues that we've raised. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, DM. Then let's come to the Auditor General's report, because the report of the Auditor General is binding. Where is it? Here it is. what the Auditor General recommends must be implemented. It's not an option. So the Auditor General on page, I can't see properly here, but there is a section where the Auditor General makes recommendations. First, to National Treasury. 1, filling of key executive positions with skilled and experienced personnel. DG, that's what the Auditor General recommends. But that as it may, we also acknowledge the progress that you are making. I've observed that you have appointed a number of young Black women in the top management of National Treasury. That is commendable. 2, the Auditor General recommends that you develop and implement effective action plans to address audit findings. 3, monitor performance and consequence management. You have said that the Auditor General acknowledges that there is progress in this regard, but emphasize that more should be done in terms of monitoring performance and consequence management. 4th, address the procurement delays and government matters raised on the IFMS. Then the Auditor General makes recommendations to the Standing Committee on Finance, what we are supposed to do as an oversight board, that above what we are doing in terms of our mandate, that we are supposed to monitor and make regular follow-up with the executive authority, that's the minister, and the accounting officer, that's the DG and accounting authority. I think these are our board of directors. And in that regard, we monitor progress with audit action plans put in place by the department and entities to improve audit outcomes. DG, you said that you have developed audit action plans for National Treasury and its entities. If it is possible, you can send those plans to the secretariat of the committee so that they can share them with us, so that we have an idea of what you are talking about, so that next time when we meet, we can be able to hold you accountable to what we have seen. So let's share the audit action plans and then take it from there. Then the committee is supposed to monitor the vacancies to ensure stability of the leadership. This is in line with what the Auditor General has made as the first recommendation when it comes to National Treasury and its entities. Monitor the consequence management and governance matters on the IFMS project. The Auditor General is making an emphasis on this IFMS project, and then follow up with entities that incurred irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure to ensure that there is no consequence. There is consequence management. So the issue of consequence management is emphasized by the Auditor General on more than two recommendations or so. So it's a serious matter. Moving towards conclusion, I think, honorable members, what we should do next year, Secretariat or support team of the SCOF let's go and meet at Land Bank rather than here on the virtual platform or in Cape Town. I think we should go and meet at the offices of Land Bank because the bank will also collapse under our watch. And the question that will be asked by the public is, what is it that Parliament has done to make sure that such an important entity of state does not collapse? So it should not only be Treasury that plays its role in this regard, but we are called upon as public representatives to make sure that this bank stays afloat. So Alan Tebucho, after the budget tabling by the minister in February, find a date earlier that we go and meet right at the head office of Land Bank. We are going to meet the minister because he's an executive authority and a shareholder, and the board as an accounting authority, the executive and whosoever, so that we get a clear explanation as to what's happening and what is it that should be done to make sure that that bank does not collapse. So we will be going there to the Land Bank physically. And then IFMS, I don't know whether you have got a room somewhere or how you implement this system or how you operate it. If it was possible, like we're doing with the Land Bank, we'll come to where this system is. And you show us in simple terms that, honorable members, this is a server room or this is an IT room of IFMS. This is how we are operating it. These are the challenges that we have. And this is what we're doing. Because I heard you, DG, that you want to bring on board CETA. We'll also bring on board the IT division from Parliament. Because for us to understand this system, we need a technical backup. It's a very complicated system. So that we understand what we are talking about. Because seated here, I don't know. I know BAS, I know the other system, because I've been in the in government before, while I was at the province and national. But I don't know how this IMFS operate. So if it is possible, DG, after visiting the Land Bank, we can come to where you operate this and you show us in simple terms that members, this is how the system operates and where are the difficulties. Because every year, a year after year, the Auditor General picks up the issue of IFMS. And in the recommendations to the Standing Committee, the Auditor General says, Parliament, put your eye there on the ball. Don't take your eye away from the ball, which is the IFMS. So this report has got a serious bearing that if something goes wrong, the public will say, but you as Parliament, you were alerted by the Auditor General and you did not do much to make sure that you play oversight on this system. So let's look at that and see what can be done in this regard so that we have got a better understanding and you show us how you are going to improve on the system rather than the way it is now, where there's a lot of money being spent and going down the drain. Let me also say, DG, those who work very hard and make sure that entities get clean audit, they must be acknowledged. You can't paint all officials with the same brush. Those who are due to get bonus, they must get that bonus. Those who are supposed to get certain incentives, they must be given those incentives. Because I know there are accounting officers who say, you are not all performing here in this department or entities, and you are not going to get bonus or incentives. That is wrong. It discourages officials who work very hard. Look, now it's almost 9. There are young women who are in this platform who have got young kids whom they have to attend to. But because they are serving the public, they try by all means to make sure that they are in the platform with you and those who are in the entities. So such people who work very hard must be incentivized, because it is wrong that every time we want to put a picture like the whole public service is corrupt and inefficient. It is not so. It is a wrong perception, and it should be discouraged at all costs. The state is operating because there are people, there are police, there are soldiers, there are public servants who spend sleepless nights to make sure that the system is fully operational. So such people should be incentivized for their best performance. Like we have said, that DM has acknowledged that is going to pass our message that we as Parliament do acknowledge and commend the good work of those entities that have got a clean audit. So you also have to do that, DG, because it's your responsibility to incentivize the employees of the department and also make sure that those entities that are under you, they must be incentivized, because we blame those who don't perform well, like we're having problem with land bank. But what about those who are performing well? We keep quiet. So it's just like, it's normal. It's part of your work. You must do it. So why must we incentivize you? It doesn't work like that. So thanks very much, honorable members, Deputy Minister, DG, Auditor General, SARS, all the officials of National Treasury and entities who are in the platform, officials of Parliament, media, and the public. Thanks very much. Good night until we meet again on, I think we're meeting on Friday to receive the Treasury response on the public hearing that we have had this morning. Thanks very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Pleasure.
Recording stopped.
Long live the chairperson.
Malibongwe, Gamala Nox.
Are we still going to strategy?